Hello and welcome anybody, everybody, but probably nobody. This is ThorW bringing you another episode in the PvP Basics tutorial series. Today I'd like to talk to you all about the concept of zoning. So, before we get started, what exactly is zoning? Zoning is the use of skills or attacks to restrict your opponent's movements. For example, right now I am currently on an Asura, and I can use something like this Spirit Crescent, which covers a very large X and a little bit of a Y axis. When I throw it out there, and I'll hold on for the cooldown. When I throw this out there, this restricts my opponent's movements. They are not able to attack me along that X-axis area while it's traveling through that area. If they try to, they're going to get hit by it, they're going to take damage, and they're going to get pushed back. That is the basic core concept of zoning. This restricts my opponent's movements to the point where he is only able to attack me from an upper Y or lower Y axis angle. This makes his movement a little bit more predictable to me, and I can react to him a lot easier. Now, zoning isn't necessarily only done through the use of nothing but large AoEs like the Spirit Crescent. Any time that you are within the range to hit your opponent and you're threatening to do damage to them, whether it be farther away with something like that, or a little bit closer with nothing more than a simple X string of attacks, you are applying zone pressure to your opponent, because your opponent has to be worried about getting hit by you from whatever angles you're able to cover. Now, if your opponent moves towards one of your blind spots, you want to obviously put them into an area where you can keep hitting them. This is where the concept of zoning comes into play, where you want to continue using skills to keep your opponent in areas that you can hit them at, or keeping them out of areas where they can hit you at. And the big reason this is so important is because in DFO, any minor connection can turn into a large combo if it knocks you up just enough, if your opponent's at the right angle, and you can lose a very good chunk of your health if you get caught. So, as our basis, we know that zoning is used to apply pressure to our opponent. And for example, we have our enemy Slayer here currently in this area. His entire movement is restricted to this much of the Y-axis. It's about cut in half from the entire arena. Now, this allows me to apply a lot of zone pressure because I can use Spirit Crescent to cut off that angle. I can use, Fire Wave to cut off an angle or something like that. Or I can use Ice Wave to cut off an angle. It all keeps him in this boxed area and allows me to continue applying pressure until I make the connection or until I want to advance. For example, so let's assume I throw Ghost Orb down this bottom Y-axis here. This will open up the upper Y-axis for myself to move in on, because my opponent can no longer stay on the lower Y-axis, or he's going to get hit by one of my more highly damaging skills, take the hit stun, and take a combo from me. So for example, the movement would look like that. Now, if my opponent stays too low and gets hit by that, good! I open up a combo onto him, easy peasy. If my opponent doesn't get hit by that and moves up on this angle, he's up onto my angle, I'm the one advancing, and I can easily apply more pressure. I can even take a step back and apply pressure with another zoning skill. And this keeps my opponent under constant pressure, where my opponent can easily make a mistake that I can capitalize on. Any small hit, any small connection can turn into a big opening for myself, and I can easily do a lot of damage to my opponent. So we saw a basic example of what offensive zoning has to offer, so what about some defensive zoning? Because, after all, there are more defensive skills in the game as well. So let's say this guy's trying to get to me. I don't want him to approach me on the X-axis, so I can set down this turret. He tries to approach me on the X-axis, and he gets hit. Now if we reset, we'll go ahead and, once again, show off the turret. Anytime he comes on that X-axis, I am safe from him. I've zoned off that entire line of area. Otherwise, he is susceptible to getting hit. Now let's say I put down this bomb, and if he comes near me, I can just pop it. That covers that small area there. So let's say we've got this line covered already, and he doesn't want to come down it. we'll cover this line now, on top of it. And we'll make sure it's hell for our opponents to try and get to us. That is the basic concept of defensive zoning. So since we're talking about zoning, I'd also like to cover a little bit about the topic of poking. It goes hand in hand with zoning. And the essentials of poking are to use skills to get little bits of chip damage onto your opponent, and slowly but surely whittle their health down and gain an advantage for yourself. Which is what I'm doing right now against this bot here. I am 100% not going near him. I'm just letting him come towards me. Anytime he tries to get towards me, I zone him away from me, I push him back away from me, I run away, and I continue poking him with my bots here. And that's all that I'm doing. And as you can see, he is taking damage, and I'm for the most part not. Anytime he tries to get close to me, I back him off with a Gatling gun, I summon some robots to fight him, I make sure that it's really difficult for him to get near me. So to help further demonstrate the concept of zoning, I have a little bit of footage from a few professional level DFOG PvP tournament players. Yes, some KDNF players. So the first one I'd like to jump us into is a match between a brawler and a female battle mage. So let's go ahead and we're going to jump in right to the beginning. The first thing the brawler does is he's going to go ahead and go strength and throw, into needle throw, into poison throw, into block throw, and he's going to keep spamming those skills over and over. What this does is this controls this wide X and Y axis cone in front of him that makes it very difficult for the battle mage to approach up upon him. So the battle mage has a lot of projectiles to try and get through, to try and get onto her opponent. And anytime she fails to do so, she's going to take little bits of chip damage. And the brawler himself is perfectly fine with continuing this as long as it is successful for him. And once he makes a decent connection, he'll follow up onto it, go for a combo onto his opponent, and then take a large chunk out of the battle mage's health. And it doesn't necessarily need to be any bit of his poke that makes a connection. Every time that he throws out these skills, limiting the zone that his opponent is allowed to walk through, it forces his opponent into an area that is predictable. So, since he covers this wide cone in front of him, the battle mage has these angles in order to try and approach her opponent from around the top and around the bottom, making her movement predictable, getting herself caught, and then the brawler is able to follow up with a combo and deal a very good chunk of damage onto the battle mage. So the next clip I want to show is from the same two players in a match later on. We're going to watch the points as the brawler zones his opponent, forces the battle mage into bad positions, and takes advantage of it anytime that he's able to. The battle mage is constantly forced to walk through predictable areas and approach the brawler in a way that he is able to capitalize upon, because she has to get to him, whereas he is able to continue poking her, continue zoning the area, and force her into a bad position. The battle mage, on the other hand, if we look at her side on facing the zoning opponent, her goal is to get to her opponent and to dodge as much of these zoning skills as possible. She makes do with this using her own mobility skills and the use of the backstep skill, which all classes have, which is a quick hop backwards with virtually no cooldown, to allow her to cover distance very quickly. This allows her to get out of some tight situations where she's cornered in multiple areas during the match, and it allows her to escape a lot of poke damage. The battle mage is able to escape that poke damage and chase down her opponent and get a good combo off. Unfortunately, though, she gets greedy for a follow-up, and after the brawler gets up with a quick rebound, he's able to take advantage of that, hit a tornado kick, and combo her. He immediately runs away, and the battle mage shows over-aggression and gets caught by him again with another tornado kick into another combo. From this point on, the Battle Mage shows a lot of overaggression and continuously gets caught by her brawler opponent until she is caught one final time into a long combo string, and he takes her down, winning the match for himself. So up next is this Soulbender vs. Asura clip. You notice the Soulbender charges back to the bottom left corner in order to throw his ghost down and give himself a strong defensive position. The Asura can't advance on his opponent, is forced to move down to a lower y-axis and try and use x-axis long-range approaches. The Soulbender unfortunately makes the mistake of leaving his safe zone, and the Asura is able to capitalize upon this after getting a knock-up onto his opponent, and is able to take control of the match once more into his own favor. What the Soulbender could have done there is kept his defensive position and forced the Asura to approach him into his ghost-controlled area, and if things started looking a little bit dangerous for him, he could have used his Phantasmal Slayer to instantly slash his way out of the corner. The final clip I want to look at is between a Witch and an Asura. The Witch begins in this clip by using Acid Rain to control this large middle area and pivot around it so her opponent can't capitalize on any hits that he tries to get on her. The Asura is able to pressure his opponent back into the corner and control the zones she's allowed to move through with long-range projectiles. As he keeps her in the corner, he wants to make sure he can advance, so he throws a Ghost Orb down the bottom y-axis, opening the top y-axis path up for himself. This is a great example of controlling where your opponent's allowed to go. The Witch has to dodge out of that bottom corner and move to the top area. The Asura takes advantage of this, closes in on his opponent, is able to make a connection, and follows up with a combo, locking down his opponent and taking a big life lead. So thank you guys very much for watching this tutorial video about zoning. Remember the core concepts of zoning. Zoning is used to restrict your opponent's movements using your own skills, using your own attacks, threatening them into making mistakes, and opening up pathways for yourself while closing pathways for your opponent. Poking goes hand in hand with zoning. It's used to take little bits of chip damage off your opponent, start gaining a life lead until you force them to make their own mistakes and allow you to capitalize upon that. Zoning is all about controlling what your opponent is able to do, opening up what you're able to do, and capitalizing upon all of that you set up for yourself, whether it be the ability to close off where your opponent can go, close in on them yourself, and take it to them, or the ability to keep your opponent from getting to you and continue poking them and doing that little bit of chip damage. So once again, thank you guys very much for watching this video on zoning. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to head down a little bit below the video. There's a subscribe button, there's a like button. I'd appreciate it very much if you could hit it. And check in the description below for the playlist for the PvP Basics tutorial series. This is video number 3, and there's more to come. Check further below in the description to see a late game PvE monk build and guide for you guys that might be playing monk. That might need a little bit of a heads up on what kind of skills you might want to go with and how effective it's going to be for you. And check even further below in the description, in the deep, dark depths of it, where no one's probably going to check anyway, for more Let's Plays I've done of other games in case you might be interested in just me, and not just the DFO game, but I know you guys aren't. You guys love DFO too much. And I'll see you guys on the next episode, where we'll cover another PvP basic topic to build upon our foundation and become PvP battle monsters. I'll see you guys in the arena. Bye-bye, everybody!